so I decided to be extra and not do a PowerPoint and actually film an edited video. So, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, which is probably the whole class, welcome. You can call me Kevin, you can call me Kev. Today's video is actually made a little different because I have an assignment for my science fiction literature class, and the topic I chose is Steampunk and Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle, it's a beautiful movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest it. It's directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And this amazing Studio Ghibli film animation studio. They do wonderful jobs at creating beautiful worlds and completely captivating movies and films. Now, Studio Ghibli is a Japanese animation film studio where their headquarters are in Tokyo. You might know them if you've ever seen their popular movies like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Kiki's Delivery Service, or if you've seen this big fluffy guy. Now let's begin the assignment, Steampunk and Howl's Moving Castle. Before we get into it, let's first break down what is steampunk. By definition from the Google, steampunk is a genre of science fiction that has a historical setting and typically features, well, steam-powered machinery rather than advanced technology. But steampunk is not just steams and engines and gears, it's also an aesthetic. Right? So the second definition is, it's defined as a style of design and fashion that combines historical elements with anachronistic technical features inspired by science fiction. For example, if you take some old-timey clothes, slap some gears on it, put some metal plates, maybe an old gun, and you got yourself a little steampunk outfit. Maybe we'll dress up as that for Halloween this year. Anyway, now I could be wrong about this, but the term steampunk was coined around 1987 by K.W. Jeter, who is the author of the novel Morlock Night, and he used the term to describe a genre of speculative fiction in which steam, not electricity, drove technological advancements. Since then, it is now used to describe an artistic and cultural movement. Now, let's get into why steampunk is so important in science fiction or this specific movie. There's an idea that I learned from another video. I have the link to that down in the bottom. It brought up this idea and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. It's called immersive world building. In the video, it goes really in depth about it, but they talk about hard world building versus soft world building. Ugh. So it's not like one is better than the other. They're equal. They all have their pros and cons on what the director chooses. From the video, hard world building immerses the reader by placing them in a world as believable and grounded as possible. For example, like Lord of the Rings, it's super detailed. It has enormous depth with economic and political details. And like the guideline for that is like there's concrete rules, consistency, transparency, and realism. Whereas soft world building, which Studio Ghibli does a lot, soft world building is a different method but prioritizes different things to hard world building. Everything is intentionally peculiar and unconventional. It leaves out information so the audience has the imaginative freedom to fill in the blanks. It's pretty cool, pretty interesting. It's enchanting, it's illogical, doesn't make sense. It makes the viewer want to dig deeper, come up with their own story for the movie or the novel or whatever. Rules for that one is kind of, it's unknown, it has flexible rules, it has imaginative involvement, otherworldliness, it doesn't have all the answers. It's creative freedom. You don't need justification. The author or director, they can not have an answer, simply put, or they can have the answer but withhold it to leave the audience wondering why it does this or why it doesn't do that. An example of this from a text that we read in class, Robot Nemesis, it kind of just throws you right in the story of like, yeah, we're supposed to know how these robots work. We're just supposed to know how these vibrations make them act whatever, you know, fall apart. Let's get into how steampunk plays a big role in Howl's Moving Castle. I did not know Howl's Moving Castle was a book in the beginning. I thought it was just a movie. But look, you're learning something new, as am I. The book is written by Diana Wynne-Jones and it was animated by Studio Ghibli and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. What steampunk does is, instead of taking science fiction on the route of jumping to the future with technology and time travel or whatever, it actually takes it back a little in history, utilizes history or aspects of history, and adds in little details of the future, like things flying and I don't know, whatever you thought was in the future, but they did it in an old-fashioned style. In Howl's Moving Castle, the steampunk aesthetic is directly at the beginning of the movie. Here you can see Howl's Moving Castle, the actual castle, not the title, and it has huge pipes, gears, smoke coming out of it, metal everywhere. This is a big example of how the steampunk style is more of an aesthetic, adds to the movie of soft world building and wondering how all of it works. Here's a few clips from the movie showing the castle and the smoke coming from the large pipes. There's big metal domes, gears, wires. You can see metal wings, beams, big metal chicken feet that somehow carry the castle, but that's all the soft world building. They also have these old-timey cars in the movie that give off the little steampunk aspect with the large pipe in the back. And another thing that this movie has, I guess another science fiction theme would be the war going on. So the war also includes some steampunk aspects with the battleships and the bombings and the air raids, and these battleships, or whatever you have it, they're a little different if you look at them. They have wings, right, like airplanes, but they can flap like a bird, so it's real different. It pulls into the sci-fi fantasy realm of things, I believe. And then we got these little things. Whatever they're called, they remind me of the speeder bikes from Star Wars, if you guys ever watched Star Wars. Or it's kind of like windsurfing, but you're actually in the wind and you can stand on this little thing with little flappy turning things to the side. I don't know what it's called, right? But that also gives off the steampunk vibe. It's different, it's eccentric, and then at the very end, spoiler alert, if you have not watched the movie, finish this video for class, but finish the video for class, but the castle transforms, it breaks down, and it gets rebuilt in this beautiful castle in the sky, which is actually another reference to another movie by Studio Ghibli. But yeah, here's a little clip. It's beautiful, it can fly, the family's all happy, everyone's good. Miyazaki and the Studio Ghibli animation studio, they don't just do this in Howl's Moving Castle, they do it in all the other movies. The steampunk style ranges over many of the Studio Ghibli films. It adds to the setting, the world building, and the overall aesthetic of the movie. Some critic reviews that I found on the interweb. Hayao Miyazaki's animation style is famously delicate and inventive. It's a beautiful adaptation of the book of the same way, Diana Wynne-Jones, by the masterful animation studio. Hayao Miyazaki introduced us yet another gorgeous world of magic with an equally engaging story. Hopefully you watch this video. Thanks for watching.